Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Nicolette Halliday, and I am the CEO and founder of Inspired Hearts Publishing. Today, I am so honored and excited to talk to my friend and colleague, Krystal Hille with Hill House Publishing. Welcome, Krystal.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicolette. I think we're going to have an amazing conversation.
I know we will. It's going to be fun, and I'm really excited about it. So a quick introduction on Krystal. Krystal is the founder of Hill House Publishing, soul leadership coach, and multiple international #1 best-selling author and speaker since early 2021. Oh, no.
Oh, sorry. Keep going. I'll just fix this.
You are fine. That deserves to go in like the bloopers.
My set is going. Yeah, here we go. All good.
Okay. I'm just gonna continue to brag on Krystal for a minute. Since early 2021, Krystal has helped over 100 changemakers from 20 countries to become international best-selling authors, so that their passion can ignite global change and enhance their authority and reach. Amazing! Hi, Krystal.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you. So Krystal is also one of the contributing authors to Get Published. Industry experts share their secrets. So to kind of kick off this call, what kind of caught your attention? What made you decide to join Get Published?
I think it's a great idea to bring publishers together and anybody working in the publishing industry to really provide, as you say, a directory for people, for aspiring authors to know where to go, to know what's involved in actually publishing a book. And I thought, well, if there's a directory like that, I'm going to have to be part of it because that's who I am, right?
Yes. And I know, like, for you, just as much as me, collaboration is at the heart of who you are, and you value it in everything you do. I see it time and time again, in your work and just in, how you show up with different colleagues. And so I'm sure that played a big part of it too, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, Krystal, share a little. I mean, I did, the introduction, but tell me a little bit about like your journey. What was your journey into starting a publishing house? Share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So when I was a teenager, I've known I'm here to help people, and I thought at the time I was a very observant child. I was kind of introverted and I was into writing. I wrote my first little stories at the age of 9 and I still have them. So I then became the editor of my school magazine and had a real passion to find out what is it that makes people tick. And I thought I was going to study psychology, but instead really explored that through literature. Because what I love with literature is that it expands our horizon and we can learn about people, we can learn about other cultures that we may not have access to. And so there was always this fascination. I studied English literature and theatre studies and became a theatre director in the UK, having been brought up in Germany. And here I was helping actors to empower them to give their best performance on stage. And I feel like this has been a really, like one of my gifts that I'm only kind of claiming and realizing in the last couple of years, that I'm really somebody who can see people. I get people, I see people's potential. And so I saw that in my 20s as a theatre director and kind of just unconsciously did that, bringing that alive on stage. In my 30s, I had a career change. In fact, it was every significant learning and growth has happened through romantic relationships. So my first marriage broke up and I gave myself, because everything had been taken away from me. Like it's almost like the universe saying, hey, you're doing all this theater work, you're having a weekend marriage. Let's just focus on the fact that this is now outgrown you. It's gone past its sell-by date. And in order for you to get to the next step in your journey, you will need to leave that behind. And so theater dried up. I looked at the relationship. I did what I had to do. Theater didn't come back. I did exactly the same things that I'd done before, but nothing, like there was just dead. It was all crickets. And I was like, okay, what's going on?
Not your path.
Yeah, it's like not your, and I'm like asking, because I've always been quite connected to the universe or source or divine spirit, whatever, you want to call that. I was asking what's going on. Where am I even meant to still be here? Is this even what I'm still meant to be doing? And the universe answered in form of synchronicities and a literal dream. Suddenly I met lots of Australians. A lot of my friends are going to Australia, and I had this dream that said, welcome to Australia. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'll go. and I did. I came here, and I knew within weeks that this was my soul home, that this was where, like, the next evolution of my consciousness, of my development. And I didn't like the theatre scene here in Australia. I find it too, I don't know, I just didn't fit. Having been used to the more traditional, way of doing things in Australia with their beautiful free spirit, they just it just didn't fit. They like to do things in a different way, which is perfect, but wasn't for me. So then I wrote myself into clarity. I did The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I don't know if you know that book.
I haven't read it, but it sounds amazing.
Yeah, so for any authors that are struggling with perfectionism, for any artists, this is the perfect book, not only to release perfectionism, but also to come into deeper levels of self-love. So it's a beautiful, beautiful book, highly recommended. So there's one exercise in there where you're writing 3 pages of verbal diarrhea, as she calls it. Basically whatever's going on in the morning, whatever's in your mind, you just empty it out onto the page. Don't edit, don't censor, just write, and don't ever pause to think. 3 pages. And I did that for 3 months. And initially it was literally this emptying out. But then towards in the last month, I noticed a shift. And I noticed that I was writing about inspiration. I was writing about what I wanted to do, and more ideas came through. And by the end of it, I found life coaching. And this was in 2008. So this was before the curve of everybody becoming a life coach that I studied that, and NLP, and I became a life coach, transformational life coach, specializing on women, helping women become empowered. So there's this theme kind of pulling through, this empowerment theme. To step into their feminine flow, to stop doing what everybody else wants them to do and just find their own unique way. I then realized that I realized that a lot of my clients were disembodied because I was working with spiritual women, and they were either emotionally bypassing or feeling unsafe to be in their body. And how can we be empowered? How can we manifest anything if we're not here, right? So my answer to that was Tantra, working with the life force energy and really building that. And also shame, especially sexual shame being the lowest vibration on the human consciousness realm. It resonates at, I think, 20 hertz, whereas love vibrates at 500. If we don't release that, how can we be empowered? How can we come from this place of love? So that was one of my big passions. And prior to COVID, I ended up running events in Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney around authentic relationships, conscious communication, and spoke at the Tantra festivals. And I really, really loved that temple environment, because actually whenever there's branding questions, I'm always the mystic. I'm always the high priestess kind of archetype. And so that I was in my element doing this. Then COVID shut all of that down. And I recognized pretty early on that it wasn't just going to be for 3 months. This was going to last for a long time. And if I didn't want to be controlled by any regulations, I had to pivot. And as always, the universe provided the answer. And Monique, who we both know, how we met, said, I'm teaching people how to become publishers. Who's in? And my whole body was like, yes, me. I'm like, really? I was initially really surprised. What? How is that fitting into what I'm doing? How's that empowering people? But of course, now having done it for almost 2 years and having published 5 books and worked with, as you said, over 100 contributors, it is such an empowering process.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about it. And it's really combining everything that I've ever done in terms of my leadership of holding people in their container like this, being able to also deal with the intangible benefits, but also the issues and the little things that come up, like the imposter syndrome. Can I even write a story? Is my story good enough? All of that stuff that comes up in the process, I just hold it. And, just deal with that in our calls that we have in the sessions. I mean, in the process.
Well, such a amazing like journey and transformation, and it seems so seamless that I'm sure the previous versions of you and the experience that you have in those previous. Uh, oh, is there an echo?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Oh, I have an echo. Hopefully other people don't hear that. So I think that it's such a beautiful transformation, and I'm sure you've been able to bring so much of the previous work that you did into what you're currently doing as a publisher, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because what really, I think what lights me up the most about this work is getting the stories. Like I always ask, what's the intention? What are the intentions of the contributor, both for themselves and for their business, but also for the reader. And
Yeah.
so I hold that for them and with them. And then when I'm getting the chapters in, I really love reading their chapters and their journeys and their stories and how they've translated their intention into the chapter. And then I give feedback on that, because as I said, I really can see where they may still be hiding, or where they could maybe make a transition more powerful, or where they could balance the chapter out a little bit more, so that they really know that I've got their back. And they know that whatever comes out, whatever feedback I give is asking them to dig deeper a lot of the time. Not a lot of the time, actually. Sometimes I get chapters that are, yep, just do this and then we're good. Other chapters require a little bit more tweaking and more work. But I love, that's probably my favorite thing in the whole process, together with holding space for the contributors in the meetings. Like we have writing labs, as I call them, where we just do sharing circles around, okay, where are you at? What do you need? What inspirations, what breakthroughs have you had? Where are you stuck? That kind of thing. And I just love holding space for that.
I love that you have this gift of seeing people and helping them to see themselves, right? It's such a beautiful thing that you're offering to the world. And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about the multi-author book experience, and solo author, I mean, in addition, but really the multi-author book is, it's really a portal you get to walk through, right? It's
Yeah.
not, I mean, there is the writing process and it can be very cathartic and you can get so clear on your messaging. There is the, putting yourself out there and really facing some of those visibility issues and things like you mentioned. Who am I to, say that I can write this story? And on the other end is a different version of you. And it sounds like you just do a beautiful job holding space for people as they walk through that. It's so amazing.
Exactly. And, one of my clients, or one of the contributors in the last book, the intangible benefits really light me up. Like he was saying that it healed his family dynamics. Just
Oh,
him being in the book and sharing his story was able to enable the family to have conversations that helped his mother to let go of her guilt around how she mothered or parented him.
that's huge. That's
Huge.
not just about writing a chapter and getting published, right?
Oh, exactly. Like, yeah, imagine the peace that they now have in their family. And he had to leave Mauritius to come to New Zealand. And I don't, he's happy for me sharing, because she shares publicly about this as well. So because in Mauritius, the psychology, which is what he does, or counseling, isn't as widely accepted. You hold your emotions down and you just get on with it. So him being a psychologist had to go to another country to do his work. But it's now being recognized and honored and appreciated by his family so much more, because he's owning it and he's putting it out in the written word for the world to see. And he's claiming it. So now the world can reflect something different back to him, rather than the questioning of, what are you doing? Are you sure this is the right thing? It's like, oh my God, now I see why you're doing this. Well done. I'm so proud of you. So that shifted.
That's big. That is so big. And having it such a tangible and valued. I mean, books, people, it's still held in such high regard. Publishing and being author and leaving your legacy in a book, it really is. And so when people get to share and put themselves in that kind of context, then it changes people's perspectives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The minute you're a published author, people look at you differently. It's still a fact. Even though there are so many more people now being a published author, it still means something. It's still a big achievement.
There's a lot more people being a published author, and I think it's easy for like people, who are in this industry to forget. You go out to the regular world day to day, and still the majority of people walking around out there aren't. Right?
Very true. And according to statistics, only actually 1% of the 60 or the 91% of people who want to write a book actually write it.
Yeah, exactly.
know.
It's such and so many people want to. I've heard, so many people, I've always wanted to write a book.
Yeah, and this is why I love the emergence of multi-author books, and what we are doing is we're providing a platform where it is so easy to become a published author, because you only have to write a 3,000 word chapter. So anybody can do that, even if you're busy. Anybody can write a story, look at a story. Everyone has a story to share that they could use. Because as entrepreneurs, we know our branding story, or we should know our branding story if we don't come into a multi-author book and find out, right?
And that is the best way. I tell people that if you want to get clarity on your messaging, actually, this is probably one of the absolute best ways. And it's so authentic and true to you, right?
Exactly. And I had a lot of contributors coming in because they said, look, I'll never get clear on my brand story unless I have a skin in the game and a deadline.
Yeah.
So I'm coming in to force myself to kind of get clarity on this next step that I'm wanting to take.
Yes. So, I think you did pretty much share this, but I just want to hear it from you. How, there are more and more publishers and people producing multi-author books, and publishers in general, indie publishers. How is the work you're doing different than other people doing similar work as you?
Yeah, look, I think in terms of what we do, everybody's doing the same thing. We're all achieving the end result of becoming producing a best-selling book. I think the author experience, it's so intangible, but I feel what I bring is, this ability to really see people. I get the feedback from people who've been in the books that I really beautifully blend the intuitive and personal with the professional. Like my books get published on time. They always hit their number one in at least 3 countries. I follow a system and we do what we do. If deadlines get met, there is that expectation and it happens. And of course, life happens as well. And I think that's where it's the magic of being able to blend professional and personal. And I think it's just an ability that I seem to have, without going into ego. It's just how it happens.
It's just your gut. You don't have to minimize.
I'm just being me, right? When we're in our zone of genius, we just do what we do, and people say, "Oh wow, I feel like there's like people feel safe in my containers. They feel seen. They feel held." There is a content library. There's lots of trainings, also healing trainings, not just strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think working so closely, it sounds like, with each chapter and really helping people develop, that's a unique piece, I think, that I don't see necessarily across all multi-author book experiences. But I think it's such a beautiful opportunity. And I think that's the other piece that I'm really hoping that comes through in this book, get published, is the reality that, yes, the publishing industry has changed and there is more and more opportunities for people to write and share and publish their story, experience, message, vision with the world. And that the experience is equally as valuable as the result.
Yes. And I mean, you're doing that beautifully as well. You know, you've got a container and you have meetings, and you know, we can all communicate and collaborate together in the you know in the hub that you've created for us, which is exactly the same that I'm using as well for my contributors. And I love that. You know, it is an experience. And I think one objection I sometimes get is like, I don't have time, you know, because, and it's true, like I haven't had time to show up on any of the meetings. I'm like, oh damn, I missed it again, you know, because there's just so much going on. And that's okay. Like if there's somebody, and I've had contributors in mind, they have not shown up to any of the meetings, but they just look at, okay, what do I have to do? Okay, and they do it. So what I want to say, it doesn't have, whilst it can be this incredibly beautiful experience and container, it doesn't have to be. Like everybody can choose the level to which they wish to participate. And if you just want to write a 3,000 word chapter and be published, do that in 2 sittings and be done with it, and then promote it on launch day. That is fine too. But for
Absolutely.
those who
Like, good
want
point.
to collaborate, right, they
Yes,
can.
I think that's such a good point. I think both you and I kind of have the same kind of perspective where we will meet you where you're at. And a lot of people who are joining these kind of collaboration books have a lot going on. They're running businesses, they are having families, they are participating in boards and have a lot of things that they are consuming a lot of their energy and attention. And so for them, it's like, no, I definitely just want to get published. I see the value of it. Like, and so I think, yeah, here's the resources. You can, show up when you can, or if you want to. And then there's other people who literally the community is their favorite part of the whole experience. So the whole spectrum of opportunities for people just to kind of come in and meet where they are. But I think the point of Get Published is to help inform more and more and more of the public that there are different opportunities available, and there are a wealth of resources, and really heart-centered, purpose-driven, deeply connected, a lot of women, men too, that see their work as a contribution to the collective. And I know that's something that's so important to you. So how does the work that you're doing, how is that tying into the bigger vision that you're seeing for the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, this empowerment is really a theme that is very dear to my heart. To awaken and empower humanity into deeper sovereignty and connection. That's my mission statement. So I see us, many of us know that we are in this pivotal point in history where there is a great transformation, a transition that we're in. And so part of my mission is to really provide the tools and the inspiration so that more and more people can tap into their own power, can wake up from perhaps a 9 to 5 life that was more on autopilot and realize there has to be so much more to life. And we're being asked to wake up, and we're being asked at this time to be authentically who we are and create these authentic relationships with one another, both in business and personally. And so how do we do this? How do we learn this? And so I'm bringing into my books the thought leaders and the movement makers and the change makers and the conscious creatives who have walked this path, who are ahead of the curve, and who have created the tools to do these things. So my recent book that just launched is called Inspired Creators, Unleashing the Magic of Deeper. That's the current. Embracing the magic of your soul mission. So it's like really that's investigation into, okay, who am I? Why am I here? And how do I find this thing called my soul mission? And so, yeah. And the next one is about inspired relationships.
Yeah. And so you bring up a really good point, which I think is such a valuable point to highlight as a differentiator in how you're doing things different. One of the things that I've been watching kind of as you do beautifully is bring in these really high power people, right, who have big stages, who are talking to lots of people, and you're folding them into your book. So how has that, and I think I told you this privately, I so honor and it's such an inspiration that you felt like you are capable of leading, right? Because that's a big part of this, is leading
Yeah.
the contributors. So how has that felt to work with people who you've probably watched from afar in admiration?
Look, it's been amazing. And yeah, so I've had Dr. John Demartini in Inspired Intuitive Living.
Mm,
Lorie Ladd was in the latest book, and in this current book, I've got Precious Williams, who is she does Pitch Perfect, and she works with Fortune 500. She's been on Wall Street and all of these amazing places. So how it feels, it's a reminder that we're on a human level, we're all equal, no
mm,
matter what we do, no matter how big our audience, we're
yes.
still human. We're still connecting from that human place, and we still share the same purpose or the same mission. We're all here, or at least all the people that I'm aligning with, that I'm bringing into these books, to awaken and empower humanity into our highest potential. And so
Mm,
that's what unites us. And so when I lead with that vision, of course they want to contribute,
absolutely.
unless they're super busy. But it's like, let's create these win-wins. Let me give you my voice so that you can expand this purpose that you're working towards, and in turn, I'm introducing them to new audiences.
That's right.
There were people, I was surprised that people that hadn't heard of Dr. John Demartini. And if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I haven't heard of him either, who is he? He was in The Secret. That was one of his, probably the thing that made him one of the
Which
things
is
that made him
also a book
famous.
collaboration, really,
Yes,
at the heart
yes,
of it,
exactly.
right? I think it's so true that, yes, these people have big audiences, and sometimes it's easy to put them up on some pedestal or platform, but really they've just been maybe along the path a little bit longer, or, have taken a few bigger steps to get to where they're at now. And I'm sure a lot of the messages in your books are just echoed from, they're echoes of different perspectives. That's one of the
Yes.
most beautiful things about book collaborations, is all of these unique perspectives and experiences coming together to share about the theme and topic. And it makes it really dynamic and robust, and can connect to people from all over the place, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I love about when you have a theme and
Mhm.
you've got 18 or 20 people writing towards that same theme. You get each one helps the reader to embody the message in a deeper way. And each story awakens something different within the reader, that just activates something within their own story or within their own self, which will help make these books really transformational tools.
I like to call it the ripple of truth and love and understanding, because it really is from the very beginning to the contributors to the readers. There's so much opportunity for us to just be really honest about who we are and what we're here doing and what we've been through.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful. So if there is something that you wish everyone who before they worked with you, or before they contributed, before they ever considered coming into a project like this, is there something you wish everyone knew ahead of time? Or is there some there's still a lot of misinformation about, or misunderstandings, I guess, about publishing. Is there something you wish that everyone just, you would love for everyone to know?
Yeah, it's about stop. We're in such a culture of mistrust, and there's so much, so many opportunities out there, and so many people doing it in an inauthentic way, or just to make a quick buck of money. So I think the message is to see each opportunity as a new thing, and just deeply tune in and trust yourself. Is this the right publisher for me?
Mm,
Is this the right time for me to share my message? And
mm,
if it is, then let go of the doubt, let go of the fear, and just deepen trust in yourself. And I think this is, whether it's around taking on an opportunity to become a published author, or for anything, it's, let's learn to trust ourselves. Let's
absolutely.
learn to come from a place of alignment, because it's our heart that is making the decisions, our emotions. And when we do it in a conscious way, and know that our mind is just there to keep us safe, but let's not let the mind make the decision. Let's drop into the heart to make that decision.
Absolutely. I think when you were saying that, I'm like, I think people need to know that for every decision they make, right?
Yes.
And just trusting it, and the value in making a decisive decision and trusting yourself to be able to do that is something that I have been able to develop. And it's been such a blessing. So absolutely agree with you on that. This has been such a fun conversation, Krystal. I'm so grateful. So I know you have a book that you're currently enrolling people for. Is that right? Is there a way people can connect with you? I mean, we have your links in the comments, so make sure to connect with Krystal. She's just an incredible human with a wealth of wisdom inside publishing and beyond. So make sure to connect with Krystal, follow her, and soak up all the wisdom that she has. But if someone's like, hey, yeah, I'm ready to do this, is there something that you can offer them right now?
Yeah, so right now, officially it's closed, but I do have 2 spots left if somebody wants to jump in last minute. And it's the Inspired Connection book. It's Unleashing the Magic of Deeper Relationships. So I'm looking, it's full of people who are talking about transforming dysfunctional relationships into functional ones, and how the inspired connections they've had along the way of their journey have really helped them to become who they are. So there's 2 spots left. Find me through the show notes, or I'm as Krystal Hille on LinkedIn and Facebook.
There you go. Connect with Krystal. Thank you so much for being here. And we are still have some openings for the Get Published Industry Experts Share Their Secrets, and also developing a bigger network and directory that I'm going to be talking about more in the coming days. But if you're in publishing and you want to work and you want to collaborate and network with people like Krystal and, the amazing other contributors that are in the space, we had our author hive call today, and it was a mastermind, and we really are just getting in and talking about things that matter. And it feels like it's such an amazing group. So I'm so excited to see who else wants to come in. So if that's you, check out the details. Go ahead, Krystal.
And it's not just publishing, is it? It's book coaches, it's also anybody who supports publishing. So it's about copywriters, editors, ghostwriters, graphic designers,
yes,
people who do book funnels, anything and everything to do with books and how we can market them. So not just publishing, and it's just about how can we, and I really love your vision for that, Nicolette, that you're bringing together people who can become referral partners, who can create joint ventures. So yeah, it's just such a beautiful, and it's coming from such a beautiful heart-centered space. So yeah, if you're listening and you are in that industry, please connect. She's not trying to sell you anything, but we want to have you in the book. But we also, if that's not possible or the time isn't right, your directory is just such a beautiful place to.
Yes, come in. We need your wisdom. We need your understanding. We need your expertise. There's currently people in the book that I didn't even know that these kinds, and I'm in publishing, and I didn't even know that there's people doing this kind of work. And that's what I want to raise awareness of. It's a rising tide, and we have an ability to really, together our voices, and together we are so strong and mighty in being able to have such an influence. And that's truly the vision. So absolutely, anyone who supports the writing, the editing, the packaging, the promoting, the designing, the talking about, the marketing of books, we would love to have a conversation and see if this is a right opportunity for you. So thank you so much, Krystal. This was an amazing conversation, and make sure to connect with Krystal. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you.